Welcome to the Owner Identity Podcast, where we empower men experiencing same-sex attraction to live a life of purpose and possibility through the power of Christ and for the glory of God. My name is Jason Meller. I am so glad you're here. Come on in, have a seat. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're talking about why living aligned with our values 100% of the time is easier than just 99% of the time. That 1% difference is those moments when you're like, well, maybe just this once, or it's not that bad, right? I've been there. Instead of watching porn, I've scrolled through social media hoping to stumble across a shirtless guy, listened to suggestive audio clips, and fantasized. And I told myself it wasn't that bad because they weren't videos, but I knew I was compromising. Those actions were not aligned with who I wanted to be. Can you relate to that? Maybe it's messaging a guy that has flirted with you before, not to cross the line, but just to be noticed for a moment. Or maybe it's telling yourself, at least I'm not hooking up, while still entertaining the fantasy in your mind. And that inner debate, those mental gymnastics, are exhausting. Here's what I've learned. Being willing to live aligned with your values only 99% of the time instead of 100% is full of mental clutter, inner conflict, and drained energy. It's just not fun. But 100%, that is freedom, that's clarity, and that's peace. So here's the thing about 99%. It feels like you're almost there. You're so close to living in alignment, but you've left just enough room for compromise. And that little bit of wiggle room, it'll wear you out. I promise. When you're at 99%, you're constantly negotiating with yourself. Is this okay? Should I do this? Is this crossing the line? That back and forth drains your energy. It creates stress. It pulls you out of alignment with who you want to be. And when you live at 99%, you start to question not just your choices, but your identity. You wonder, am I really who I say I am? That inner conflict has worn me down more than the temptation itself. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, trying not to fall off. You're constantly fighting to stay balanced, but the wind is pushing you and the ground feels shaky. At 100%, you've stepped back from the edge. You're on solid ground. You're safe. And here's another thing. 99% is often harder than 50%. When you're at 50%, you've kind of accepted that you're not living according to your values. You're not pretending otherwise. But at 99, you're so close to living the way you've decided to that every compromise just feels heavier. It feels like a betrayal of who you really want to be. Now, let's talk about living at 100%, that place where compromise is just not part of who you are. When you commit to that, you eliminate the need for negotiation. You've already made the decision, so there's no debate. You're not wasting mental energy just trying to justify or rationalize your actions. At 100%, you're clear, you're aligned, you're free. And I want you to know it's not about perfection, it's about clarity. It's about saying, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is how I choose to live. When you set a clear boundary based on your true identity and values, you're not just avoiding something because it's bad or wrong, you're avoiding it because it's not who you are. For example, instead of saying, I'm not going to fantasize because it's bad, you're saying, I'm not someone who fantasizes because I value my peace, my purpose, and my relationships. That shift from rules to identity is what makes the commitment stick. Getting clear on your identity is huge because your boundaries are only as strong as the identity that they're built on. If you're just following rules, it's easy to bend them. It's exhausting. It's white knuckling it. But when your boundaries are rooted in your identity, they become non-negotiable. If I see myself as someone who's desperate for male attention, I'll keep finding ways to feed that need, even if it means small compromises. But if I see myself as a man who's deeply known and loved by God, who doesn't need to earn affirmation, then purity isn't a rule, it's an overflow of who I already am. Think about it. If you see yourself as someone who values integrity, peace, and alignment, then compromising on those values doesn't just feel wrong, it feels out of character. It feels like you're betraying yourself. And that's why owning your identity is so powerful. When you are clear on who you are and what you stand for, your boundaries become a natural extension of that. You're not just avoiding temptation, you're living true to who you are in Christ. And that brings peace. So, how do you move from 99% to 100%? How do you set clear boundaries that align with your identity and values? Here are a few steps to get you started. Number 1, clarify your identity so you can truly own it. Write down who you want to be and what you stand for. Be specific. This could look like saying, I am someone who values peace, purpose, and alignment. I'm someone who lives with integrity and honors my commitments. I am a man who is secure in God's love and doesn't need to chase attention or approval. 2, set clear boundaries. Define what 100% looks like for you in specific areas. For example, I don't consume any content that compromises my peace or integrity. I don't follow or engage with content that stirs sexual curiosity towards other men. I don't linger in conversations that pull my mind toward fantasy. 3, anticipate challenges. You know they're going to come. Identify situations where you might be tempted to compromise and plan for how you're going to respond. You could say, if I feel the urge to fantasize or look for attention, I'll pause, name the feeling that I'm chasing, and choose a healthier way to meet that need, like reaching out to a friend or spending time in prayer and worship. And lastly, celebrate progress. It's about progress, not perfection. Acknowledge and celebrate the peace and clarity that you feel when you're living at 100%. Remind yourself of the freedom that comes from alignment. Create a brag book where each time you live out of who you are, instead of compromising, you write that down so you can get in the habit of reviewing that and let that reinforce who you are and give you more momentum moving forward. So here's what I want you to take away today. 100% is not about being perfect. It's about being clear. It's about living in alignment with your true identity and values. It's about choosing rest over negotiation. So this week, I challenge you to pick one area of your life where you've been living at 99%. Get clear on who you want to be and what you stand for, and commit to 100%. Because when you do, you're not just choosing clarity and peace, you're choosing to live as the person you were created to be. You are choosing rest over inner debate. You're choosing peace over compromise. You're choosing to live free. And finally, I want you to remember you are not defined by the compromises that you've made. You're defined by the one who calls you his, and he is for you 100%. You've got this because God's got you. I'll talk with you soon. Hey guys, I appreciate you listening to this podcast, and I would like to share a review with you. Jay says, it's been years of searching for someone who understands how hard living this life is until now. Jason continues to share with transparency and humility. He points to living the life God intends by learning to be in community with God. He reminds us that in and with God is where true freedom is. We're not meant to carry shame or live in fear. Jason guides and teaches us how to do just that. If you know somebody that would benefit from the Own Your Identity podcast, please share it. And if you haven't given a 5-star rating or left a review, I invite you to do so. Take care.